We've spent 2 years scouring the globe for people who were at the heart of life-changing events, leaving no stone unturned.
Is that California then? USA? This is a very strong lead for us.
Tonight, a woman who's waited 50 years to apologise to her first love.
But first, I'm on my way to South Wales to meet a father of 5 who wants to thank the man who saved his life nearly 30 years ago.
I would have this job killed off now. You know, I've spent 26 years now, almost without hands. You grab a pair of gloves then, on. Over half my life. But I'm here to tell the tale.
My hope would be that for him to be able to say thank you would sort of allow him to move on, because he's still healing, even after all these years, really.
27 years ago, at the age of 19, Patrick Provis joined the Welsh Fusiliers. His first deployment was to South Armagh in Northern Ireland.
Such are the dangers of the so-called bandit country of South Armagh.
This is South Armagh, bandit country, where Protestants live precariously.
Today, South Armagh looks like a rural idyll. But back in the late 80s, it was an IRA stronghold, the most dangerous place in the world for a British soldier to serve.
We flew in via helicopter extremely fast. To give you an idea of how dangerous it actually was, it didn't touch the ground. We actually jumped out about 2 meters up. These photographs were all taken before the incident with my camera. I had the only camera there. That's me. No, they were good days. They were really good days. On the day that I was injured, as far as I remember, it was like any other normal day. We came off duty off the main road. And then at that point, there was this huge thud. I was on my back thinking, what the heck was that? And all this was in slow motion.
Patrick's section had come under fire from 3 IRA mortar rounds, each containing 20 pounds of Semtex, enough to destroy a large house. In the midst of this mayhem, Patrick lay critically injured.
He was in a bad way. You could see, you know, if you looked at him, you could see, oh my God, you know, we knew he'd lost at least an arm. We weren't sure about the other one.
I can remember, and I think these are the words that's always affected me. Patrick can't remember saying them, was, why me? Why me? Please don't tell my mother. Please don't tell my mother that this has happened to me.
Patrick had also sustained massive internal injuries, and time was running out.
There is no way that I was going to get out by road, and let alone survive the 10 miles to hospital. And there was no way that a helicopter realistically was going to come in and land and take us out. The area was far too dangerous. In all that carnage, oddly enough, it was peaceful. And in the sky, it's a blue sky, it's a beautiful day. I felt at peace. If that was death on its way, then I didn't have an issue.
But just minutes after the explosion, with every chance that the IRA were lying in wait for another ambush, an army helicopter arrived.
He's landed in the incident area, which is an extreme no-no.
Under standard army protocol, helicopters were not allowed to go into an area where there was such a high risk of being attacked.
You know, that pilot's had a lot of guts to do it.
I don't know who made the decision to land. But I am here because of that act. I need to actually find that person and say thank you.
Despite searching for the last 10 years, Patrick's been unable to find a record anywhere of the incident and is no closer to finding the man responsible for his rescue. I'm hoping there's something he can tell me that might help us with his search.
Pat, how are you? Are you well?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Great to meet you.
Do you fancy a pint?
I'd love a pint. Yeah, you've started early then.
Yeah, well, you know, I'll get me. Yeah, thank you.
How dangerous was that situation that helicopter was landing into?
It's incredibly dangerous because the one thing that the IRA like to do would be to suck you in and then set off a secondary device. It's done on many occasions where the guys would think that they were going in to save other guys and then detonate something even bigger. So the potential was there to lose everyone.
Did you discover any details at all later on of who the crew may have been, you know, what regiment they were from?
The information's sketchy. And quite literally, from that operation, there is literally nothing written.
Why?
Per se. Well, why? Perhaps it's one of those operations that just, you know, paled into insignificance for whatever reason. But there was a story that somebody on that helicopter had something to do with the master of Falkland's Castle in Scotland. And over the years, I've done little bits and pieces of research, and there's, unfortunately, nothing.
Are you aware of how many crew members would have been in the helicopter?
Normally on a helicopter, you'd have the pilot, co-pilot, and the loadmaster.
Right.
The loadmaster would be in charge of the back of the aircraft, effectively.
Do you have any kind of vivid images of those looking down at you?
There are two people actually facing me that are at the back of the helicopter then. Who they actually are, the two people in the back, I don't know. My consciousness on the helicopter was in and out.
Right.
What sticks out in my mind is that my body armour slipped at that point, so the plate in my body armour is pressing up into my throat, and I'm choking. And this guy, whoever he was, is knelt, and he went to lift the plate in my body armour up, and the other guy grabbed his arm. I remember him grabbing his arm and actually pulling his arm away, and he sort of shrugged it off, and then went. And instantly I could actually breathe again. And then the next moment, we're actually landing on the top of Daisy Hill Hospital in Newry. I think one of the doctors asked my dad at one point, how are you going to cope with your son with no hand and arm? And he said, well, just give me my son back alive, you know? And here I am. I mean, 26 years on, yeah, I haven't got a hand. I haven't got a left forearm. But actually, perhaps, it doesn't really matter. I'm here. Those guys saved my life, and I think I'd like to say thank you.
It's clear that over the years, Patrick has been able to discover very little about his rescue. But there must be an official record somewhere of what happened. I've come to the Library of Military History in Whitehall to meet Professor Richard Grayson, an expert in the history of the Troubles.
Richard.
Hi, mate.
All right to interrupt your reading.
Nice to meet you.
You well?
Yeah, absolutely. How are you?
Very good. So Patrick, he was with the Royal Welsh Fusiliers,
right,
stationed in South Armagh.
Yeah.
In November 1987, he was hit by a provisional IRA mortar bomb. This helicopter flies in, picks him up, and takes him to safety. Patrick was saying that he thinks he was going against orders.
Yeah, it's quite possible that they would have been. We must remember that throughout the history of the British Army, men have gone against orders, and they've won Victoria Crosses for that kind of operation. So it is normal for people to do brave things in difficult situations.
Patrick assumes that the pilot was in charge. Was that always the case?
The pilot would be in touch with the base. It's hard to know. Could be somebody in some kind of observation or navigation role. That's a level of detail that's going to be very hard to find.
When an incident like this occurs, what's written down?
There are very detailed records made, and notionally they're under a 30-year rule, but the information on Northern Ireland is considered exceptionally sensitive. Some of them aren't going to be open until 2069, so 100 years after the beginning of the Troubles. A lot of them are not open.
And why is that then?
Well, these Army unit war diaries
are exceptionally detailed in what they contain. They tell you who was where doing certain things. Now, if somebody's got a grudge, there could be all sorts of trouble. So this kind of material is going to be secret and under closures.
And as you can imagine, incredibly frustrating for somebody like Patrick, who his life has changed because of it, and yet he can't get hold of it.
No, that's right.
Well, that wasn't as conclusive as I'd hoped. To be honest with you, I had no idea that the events at the time were shrouded in such secrecy. So, well, it turns out the chances of us getting hold of the official records of the attack is going to be almost impossible.
For Patrick, the attack meant the end of the military career he'd always dreamt of.
There it is. The soldier. How could you fail to be actually inspired by that on the front cover anyway, at the very least? I can remember reading this on my auntie's steps in Basingstoke. The excitement of what I was actually seeing in those pictures. It was almost like my fairy tale book then, really. I just wanted to be a soldier. That was an incredible dream. And nothing else really mattered. In my mind, I'm still a soldier now, and I miss it. I'll always miss it.
After Patrick was rescued, he spent 6 months convalescing in an army hospital, where he met his wife, Janie, who was one of his nurses.
Life, the way he wanted it, was cut so short. He feels he should have gone on to do more. He had plans to get rank and that, and he just got stuck. He just gets very angry.
I am stuck in that moment. I'm there with it. I can't block it out. It's impossible to block out. I would like to say thank you, and probably put my mind at ease a little bit once I've been able to say that.
For now, our attempt to trace Patrick's rescuer has reached a dead end. And while we rethink our approach, we begin our second search. In South Wales, Patrick Provis is waiting for news of our search for the man he owes his life to.
With no chance of being able to access the official records to Patrick's rescue, the only lead that we now have to go on is this rumour that he'd heard that somebody on board the helicopter was something to do with the master of Falkland Castle.
Patrick has already looked into the place, Falkland Castle, and found nothing. But what if, rather than looking for a place, we should be looking for a person?
Peter, nice to see you.
Peter O'Donoghue at the Royal College of Arms is a leading authority on the British nobility.
This is Burke's Peerage, very useful. And if we look up Falkland in here, we'll find this family who were actually given the title of Viscount Falkland by James I. So here we are, present Viscount Falkland, the 15th, is here, and his son...
OK, right, so Alexander Plantagenet. Then it says right beside it, Master of Falkland.
So what exactly is the master, then?
This is something you get in Scottish peerages, very specific to Scotland. And what that means is the current Viscount is obviously called the Viscount Falkland, but his eldest son, who's going to inherit the peerage, is always called the Master of Falkland. The fact that Lucius is in brackets suggests to me that he's probably going by the name Alexander.
OK, and if we read on, then, does this suggest any kind of military connection?
Well, it gives his education, including RMA, Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, and then it mentions his service as a captain in the Scots Guards.
Well,
Ravenwood, Bel Air. Is that California, then? USA?
Yeah.
So this is a very strong lead for us.
Yeah.